and get this started. Okay. Hello, welcome to the November 21st Women in Product Toastmasters Club meeting. I'm your Sergeant in Arms, Shruti Patra. Today our theme is empowering your teams. So let's hear more about the topic from our members today. At this time, I would like to introduce you to our president, Erica Tamburo.
Thank you, Shruti. Welcome, everybody. It's November, and I'm excited about today's topic because also our vision for the club is empowering everybody's voice at the table. So looking forward to hearing from everybody. If you have a role, please make sure you're named. And if you are a guest, please, if you mind putting a label of guest in front of your name so that people can recognize you. I will go quickly through announcements for today and then welcome our guests and ask you to introduce yourself. December 5th, please join us for our club anniversary. Happy 1 year is coming up. We'll have a little toast and celebration at our next meeting and can't wait to celebrate with you all. As a reminder, we have leadership meetings the second Wednesday of every month, and everybody is always welcome to attend those. Can get involved in various ways, learn what we do, so that you're ready to volunteer for the next time we have elections. In February, we have a club contest coming out. We'll have our club contest coming up. And I have an email that I'm going to be sending out to everybody just to explain a little bit how our club contests go. To qualify for our Women in Product speaker slot that the club has at the Women in Product Conference, you have to have completed your icebreaker. So if you want to compete for that slot, please make sure you are signed up for your icebreaker and you have that done before the contest. Our next networking and socializing event will be in December. Still ironing out a date for that, but hope to see you there. No meeting January 2nd. And following today's meeting, we will have a Q&A. So stick around, ask whatever burning questions you might have or non-burning questions. We'd be happy to help you out. Next, we'd like to welcome our guests, which I believe we have 2 guests with us today. I am looking. Sina, welcome. So today you'll get a feel for how a Toastmasters meeting is run. Though there are numerous roles, the goal is to give people time to practice their prepared speeches. There is impromptu speeches, which you are invited to participate in the impromptu. It's called table topics, but you are invited to participate in that. If you would prefer not to participate in that, you can message our table topics master of the day, Soimya, and let her know. And yeah, so if you'd like to say hi to everybody and maybe share with us what you're looking for to help you level up.
Hi, everyone. This is Sina. I am based out of Kentucky. I know a couple of people in this group. I've been actually trying to come for some time, so it's like finally I'm here. Nice to meet you all. I am trying to find a community and also be more impromptu speaker. I speak before thinking, so I just want to like line that up and be more proactive, like more structured and all that. Yeah. So looking forward. Thank you.
Well, this is a great place to practice the impromptu stuff. So glad you were able to join us for today, and I hope you have a good time. And I believe we have one more guest, Gabriella. Gabriella, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm sorry I don't have my video on. I'm having issues. So yes, this is my first time joining. It was very last minute, but I'm interested in, just brushing up on my public speaking skills. I'm a very timid person, so I figured I got to get myself out there and improve on these skills. So that's why I'm here.
Wonderful. Well, I hope you enjoy today and see the value in practicing with everybody every couple of weeks. I know some of us are, we're definitely working on our confidence, and just after a couple of months, we're much more confident. All right, without further ado, I would like to introduce our Toastmaster of the day. Miss Monique is a product manager at Capital One. She's excited by cross-functional teams and great user experiences. She's a San Diego native who currently resides in Dallas, Texas. In her free time, she likes to read, dance, and laugh at a good joke. And we all know how wonderful Monique delivers some excellent speeches, and we're looking forward to her being Toastmaster today. Thank you, Monique.
Thank you so much, Erica. So good morning and good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm excited to be your Toastmaster and introduce our theme of the day, empowering your team. As I started thinking about this topic, one of the first things that came to my mind is when I worked as a web developer at an ed tech company. One of the standout benefits of the company was that we worked 4 days a week. I don't mean 40 hours condensed in 4 days. I am talking 32 hours, Monday through Thursday, but still compensated as a full-time employee. Take a moment and imagine what that would be like. I can tell you it was glorious. Knowing that I would always have a 3-day weekend was just awesome. I felt empowered in my personal life to focus on my hobbies and spend more time with friends and family. And in return, those 4 hours of work were jam-packed. I spent those days motivated to build features that were right for our customers. One of the reasons I and my teammates worked so hard is because we felt a sense of trust. The company trusted us to make good choices for ourselves, our customers, and the business. The 4-day work week was just one of multiple norms that showed the company trusted us. When you feel there is trust, you feel empowered. As product managers, we collaborate with engineers, designers, data scientists, and more. As I reflect on how to empower these various teams I work with, I think about what is structurally in place to show trust. Can my engineers deploy code continuously? Are my designers able to approach tasks in their own way? Showing your colleagues that you trust them is one of multiple ways you can empower your team. That is the theme of the day, empowering your team. And I'm so excited to learn from each other throughout today's session. Now, let's get to it. I'll first explain the structure of the meeting, and you can follow along with the agenda that is in the meeting invite, and it's also posted in our chat. The meeting is divided into 3 sections. The first is our prepared speech rounds, where members will be delivering their standard speeches. Today we have Richu, Marguerite, and Tanya presenting. The second part of the session will be the table topics round. We will be able to practice impromptu speaking, and Soumya will be leading this round, where we'll have a lot of surprise questions that we are not sure about related to our topic today. And then the third and final part will be our evaluation round, where all the prepared speeches will be evaluated by our general evaluator and her team. I'll now take a minute to introduce Sarah and her team.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. It is my honor to be your general evaluator today. My role is to look at the entire meeting from beginning to end, to look at what is going well and what can be improved for future meetings. And in order, along with the theme of empowering your teams, I have a power pack team today that it will be providing evaluations of our prepared speeches. Our first evaluator is Amelia Candicota. Excuse me if I mispronounced your name. Our second evaluator is Ashley Lawson, and our third evaluator is Ansu George. We also have a grammarian, and I believe our Toastmaster said I should go ahead and introduce the grammarian, Sam Doctor. Sam, if you're here, I don't see you on my screen, but if you could go ahead and give us the word of the day, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Hope everyone's having a good holiday season. And today's word of the day is entrust, the verb to essentially give trust to someone to execute. In a sentence, I empower my team by entrusting them to make data-driven decisions. Again, the word of the day is entrust. And so part of my role is to keep track of the amount of times people in the meeting use the word of the day, which is entrust, in addition to keeping track of any interesting ways people use grammar, in addition to any improper use of grammar. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Sam. Our next role is counter with Rosie Hernandez, and I'd like to bring Rosie to the forefront to talk about her role. Rosie?
Thank you. Hi, all. Sorry. So the purpose of the counter is to note words and sounds that are used as a crutch or pause filler by anyone who speaks. During the meeting, I will listen to overused words, including and, well, but, so, and you know. I will also listen for filler sounds such as and then I will note all of these counts over on a chart, and I'll give a report at the end of the meeting. Awesome. And then back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Rosie. We also have our timer who's being served by our president as well, Erica Tambero. Erica, would you like to tell us about the prepared speeches and the timings today?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As the timer, I am entrusted to time table topics, formal speeches, and evaluations. As you see, my beautiful background here will change colors. For most speeches that are 5 to 7 minutes in length, at 5 minutes, I'll raise the green card. At 6 minutes, I'll raise a yellow card. And at 7 minutes, I'll raise a red card. For evaluations of those speeches, those should be within 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, I'll raise a green card. At 2.5 minutes, I'll raise the yellow card. And at 3 minutes, I'll raise the red card. And for table topics, those are no more than 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I'll raise a green card. At 1 minute and 30, I'll raise the yellow. And at 2, I will raise the red. Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Timer. And then it looks like I'm also introducing table topics and vote counter. Our vote counter today is Sarisha Alaru. And when we get to table topics, if you, those who are, well, if you want to vote for the best table topics, you could send that to Siri. May I call you Siri for short? I hope I can.
Yeah, you can definitely call me Siri. A lot of all my friends and colleagues call me Siri. But I think vote counter is still Lori because Anshu is here. So I'll just listen in today.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Okay. So we will then go on to our table topics person, which is Surima Patro. If you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a breakdown of table topics or what that is about, please.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, hello everyone. I'm Soumya. I will be your table topics master for the day. Excuse me. In table topics, we will practice our impromptu speaking, which will be related to the theme of the day, which is empowering your teams. You will have 1 to 2 minutes to give your answer on the topic that I choose, on the question that I pose. I will present the question and then I'll select somebody randomly from the audience to give their answers. And you're encouraged to use the word of the day when you share your answer. Thank you. Sarah?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Again, we have an empowered evaluation team. So I'm super excited about this meeting, and I'd like to hand it back to our Toastmaster, Monique. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate all the team and all of the explanations of your roles. So thank you. So now we are ready to start the first part of our day. So we're going to look at our prepared speeches. Our first speaker today is Richu. Richu has worked in the sales organization for over 6 years and product management for the last 3 years. The business view, the human aspects, and the philosophical approach have all been researched for team empowerment. When she applied value-based learnings to empower fellow teammates, customers, and company leaders, her overarching takeaway has been the need for alignment and room for creative autonomy. Richu is on the leadership development pathway and on the level 2 project, Managing Time. The title of her speech is Alignment and Autonomy. Richu, please take the stage.
Thank you, Madam Toastmasters. Empowering your team can be so many aspects of core leadership, irrespective of your role or title in the company. A manager could be the one empowering their team with a trusted space to creatively explore where they constantly engage in aligning on the goalpost. An employee could be empowering their team by stepping up to take more work during crunch time, or staying motivated during a challenging time for the team, or taking on other roles while the team has to backfill for a fellow teammate. A product manager, however, has the unique role of a leader empowering cross-functional teams with the why. Why should they care? Why is this project worthwhile to pour their skills into it? The other facet as a PM is to manage up, empowering the leadership team in the company with the why and backing it with the how and the when to paint the bigger picture is critical to bringing a bottom-up alignment. So let's peel the onion and look at what are the foundations to achieving alignment. As product managers, when we communicate to larger organization, narrating the why becomes absolutely critical. Not only to inspire, but also establish why this matters more than another viable option. One of the best ways to do it, in my experience, is to talk about the journey, as though every employee in the company was driving the company train themselves. Where we've been, quantitative analysis on how the product is being used, what data to show, with the data to show progress towards the goals, where we are, communication of current capabilities and how they stack up in the market today, and where we're going, a strategic roadmap showing how the product is evolving to help customers meet their goals and tie into the goals of your own company. By reminding these aspects regularly, you're elevating the values these teams bring to the product and tying it to the value generated for the end customer. This transparency and visibility across teams facilitates collaboration, also opens room for pockets of constructive tension to question the data put forward. But when a product team is out of alignment, it sends a mixed message to the rest of the company, be it engineering, marketing, sales, causes chaotic and fragmented planning and an unhealthy rapport. It creates distrust in the product team or the product manager, and that can cause teams working in isolation without perspective and impacting the culture of the company. People with the highest skills quit companies. Others start using pressure tactics to get what they think is the better objective. Some teams stop cooperating and lose faith in the new product, causing failed launches and decreased growth. People also start attacking product leaders, expressing their concerns in open forums like all hands and company office hours. Here's a story that Simon Sinek shares. If a company is only motivated by money or fame without values, they go on to live painful lives, even in their personal life, as in the people of the company. They live with broken marriages, unhappy employment, and unethical motivations. That's especially because they're programmed to churn out something that they think the customer wants. whether the customer needs it or not. Like the news media today, it's all kinds of news and narratives without the thought of whether the listener needs it or not. The loss in why we're doing what we're doing is not only damaging to one team or one company, but it percolates into people's personal lives and then the society. Now, let's peel the onion another layer and dig deeper to the core of empowerment, the house of autonomy. We didn't choose product management because we want to follow orders and constantly seek approval. We became product drivers to be independent thinkers and problem solvers with room to innovate, and to empower product managers to take that ownership and make those calculated risks. The culture of a company and team plays a significant role. Personal objectives tied to the product strategy, which reflect in the customer's journey, is the how. They provide a specific sense of direction, yet allowing room for exploration and entrusting the team to achieve the objective. Lack of autonomy stifles the product and people growth. Top-down management is the opposite of agility, creating a process-intensive situation destined for bottlenecks and inefficiency. Although I believe autonomy is significant in setting the tone for the product and the feeling of success as an employee, I do believe it should be earned gradually. The precursor is alignment to establish that trust and then open doors for exploration in autonomy. For example, anyone should be able to suggest a product idea, but an actual business rationale and source must be explored to qualify that idea, adding to the narrative of that customer journey. This, in other words, is accountability. With autonomy, comes great responsibility, and we know that more than any other teams across in the company. And setting a culture for driving accountable people across teams is critical to getting the best output from, let's say, a product marketing team working on a collateral for the end customer, a demand generation team exploring customer options and market verticals for sales funnel, an engineering team working on the best practices for programming the end user experience, and a leadership team excited and committed to funding and backing this product. When Brené Brown talks about cultures at workplace, I also take away how this could perhaps apply to autonomy. The true sense of autonomy is belonging. Belonging with your work, belonging with your equity, your diversity, your inclusivity. The top-down culture that allows for welcoming ideas, products, and people is the same across the board. And that to me is the same as autonomy. Aligning to the why and constantly reminding teams of value-based approach and autonomy applied to people, product, and process, I think is the key to a product manager's role in empowering teams. So here's what I'll leave you with. I'm paraphrasing Juan Ost, who was the EVP of MarketStar. Happy employees lead to happy customers, which then leads to a happy stock market. All right, thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmasters.
Thank you so much, Riju. That was wonderful. All right, Erica, can we get 1 minute on the clock? And I will open this up for if anyone has any questions for Ritu. Can't see everything on my screen yet. Oh, Ashley.
Yes, I do have a question here. So, Ritu, I thought it was very interesting to hear you talk about autonomy as one of those layers. One thing that I've struggled with is also having that creep of imposter syndrome slip in there when it comes to autonomy. So I am curious, and I would love to hear how you would combat that.
So I have a follow-up question. So when you say imposter syndrome, is that with your leadership or is that with the cross-functional teams?
It is 100% just me. I have this inner voice that starts nagging and saying, are you sure you belong? are you in the right position? Are you supposed to be a part of this team? And that kind of comes across with autonomy, because I have all of this freedom to actually be a really good product manager, but then I start to doubt myself. And then I start getting into the cycle of, am I supposed to be here?
That's a great question. So there are two recommendations. One is, Erica, I will take a minute. I'd like to answer this question. One is, I recommend that you talk to your immediate manager and you express some of these concerns, but of course, in a way that is professional, of course, right? So where you express the concerns of your challenges in some very specific areas, let's say in a product or in terms of conversing with a certain cross-functional team, etc. And also seek feedback from your manager. So when you express your concern, it's more of a question than here's my problem and let me lay it out on the table. I would say express it as a question and open it up for engaging and getting your manager's feedback on that. And he or she might have a take on what's the best way for you to combat some of those concerns or internal voices. When it comes to you yourself working across teams and feeling that your recommendation to, let's say, a marketing team might be lesser than what a marketing team can produce in collateral, it's good to be honest to yourself. You are the product manager, you're not the product marketer. It's great that you want to build your skills as a product marketer. So look at it as a learning opportunity to see if you can get better at that, if that's your intention. But if it's not, then it's perfectly fine to go rely on a good product marketer and say, this is what my customer journey looks like, and I want to see your take on it. And how are you going to build the story around it? What's the value that we should be probably talking in terms of highlighting for the product? So one is there might be room for growth or learning if it's specific to a product or specific to a skill. Second is the voices. You should rather talk to your manager about it and pose it as a question and seek feedback. So I'd say the more you build that safety with your manager, the more you're kind of trusting them and they are trusting you. They know you better to then give you the right projects, the right tasks that are to your strengths, or maybe sometimes challenge you with something that you might be finding tough to say, I trust you, you can do this, and that's why I give you this project. So it opens room for that really good relationship and that engagement with your manager where they become your cheerleaders and want to strengthen your strengths. That's a long answer, but hopefully that was
Oh no, you got it. You got it. Good job, Ritu.
I think we all feel that way sometimes. So thank you for the question, Ashley, and thank you, Ritu. All right, excellent. So now we will move on to our second speaker of today, which is Marguerite Owsley. Marguerite is an experienced product manager currently creating inspiring wellness experiences for women at Nike's new business incubator. She's also the Data and Tools Committee Chair for the Black Product Managers Network. To relax, she enjoys cats, online courses, and thinking deeply about the relationships between MCU characters. In Pathways, she is on the Evaluation and Feedback Project, and the title of her speech is Give and Give Some More. Marguerite, take it away.
Thank you, Monique. And just FYI to the group, I have a bit of a cold, so I'm sorry if I don't project strongly. So a while back, I was excited to join a brilliant team working on an inspiring challenge that I was eager to tackle. Then during my first 90 days, 50% of that team quit. So what happened? I asked them, and everyone who left said they did not feel empowered as part of the team. They didn't have enough information about what was going on with the project. They didn't feel comfortable sharing their opinions, and they didn't feel like they were trusted to do their jobs well. One of the most surprising lessons I've learned in my career is that good leadership isn't about having all the answers and telling people how to do their jobs. Developing a successful team often requires giving away the things that give us power. In his TED Talk, Are You a Giver or a Taker? Organizational psychologist Adam Grant says, the most meaningful way to succeed is to help other people succeed. Giving to and empowering teammates go hand in hand. One of the most important things to give your teammates is information. Empowering information can come in many forms: behavioral analytics, user feedback, market research, direction from leadership, even clarity on roles. As product managers, we sometimes feel like we should be the idea person on the team, but everyone has good ideas, from engineers to customer success. Once I disagreed with cross-functional partners about how to increase engagement with a specific feature. Eventually, I recognized that these other team members didn't have the same information I had. So I shared some analytics about how the feature was performing. And immediately the conversation opened up. One of the partners suggested a great idea, new approach that we implemented, and it ended up being very successful. Part of the reason I hadn't shared data outside the product team earlier is that data sharing between teams wasn't part of the company culture. Sometimes we have to recognize the gap and take the initiative to change the culture so it's more empowering for everyone. Another thing that's important to give is vulnerability. Being vulnerable with your teammates is scary. I worry it makes me look weak, indecisive, or dumb. That said, I think the most important ways to be vulnerable with your teammates are owning up to mistakes, admitting when you don't understand something, and not being afraid to say when you disagree. The goal of being vulnerable is to help create psychological safety. In case you're not aware, psychological safety is the belief that you won't be punished when you make a mistake or share your honest opinion. And research studies show that the most successful teams have psychological safety. I once witnessed a team fail for several years because no one was willing to say that the beloved leader in charge was not the right person for their role, even that person's manager. Instead, the team's budget was repeatedly cut, and eventually the team was split up, and the projects they were working on were distributed to other teams. A third thing we should give to teammates is autonomy. Most people don't like to be micromanaged. Being entrusted to direct our own work keeps us motivated. We should explain the problem we want to solve, not how to solve it. For example, when working with a designer, don't say, I want an onboarding experience that looks just like Slack's. Instead, say, we want an onboarding experience that teaches users how to take their first actions in the app and delights them at the same time. One of my first managers as a product manager dictated exactly how I wrote our internal release notes to the point where they even rewrote them. I was frustrated because I came from a content background, they didn't, and I felt strongly that I had a better approach. Eventually, I explained my approach and asked if we could publish them my way once, then collect some feedback. And in fact, recipients of the notes that felt that my version was easier to understand. From then on, the release notes were completed more quickly, my manager didn't have to worry about them anymore, and our relationship improved. After that experience, I realized I need to give my teammates the freedom to decide how to get their work done, even when they are junior in their role. So I've never been a people manager, but I've learned that it's important to give as much information, vulnerability, and autonomy to colleagues as I can. Sometimes we can own the initiative and put these practices into place ourselves. Sometimes we have to enroll a manager into the process. And even if management isn't on board, I recommend following these practices in your day-to-day interactions. You'll see performance and morale improvements in your team. And giving to and empowering your teammates really feels good. Thank you for your time and attention. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Marguerite. That was wonderful. So, Erica, if we can put a minute on the clock. And does anyone have any questions? So Marguerite?
I do. This is Sirisha. So,
Yeah.
Margaret, I'm trying to roll up, I'm trying to scale up my role to become a senior product manager. I oftentimes find myself in a dilemma, like, how much should I let go versus how much should I take control on? Because, sometimes it feels like if I let go and which I think I'm empowering my teammates, it feels like, they're making they're stepping into my shoes and then they're ignoring me. And sometimes I feel like, if I have to own this, then I should be talking to my stakeholders. So what is the right balance? What do you suggest for a person like me who's struggling with where should I strike the balance?
Yeah, that's I think a struggle that a lot of us have, I'm sure, have experienced. I think one of the things to understand is, what makes a senior product manager at your company. So what do they looking for? What's important? What skills and experiences are important for you to have as a senior product manager at your company, and then prioritize those. And it's difficult, but you have to let go of the other things. Just try to, stay connected to the rest of your teammates, to your teammates that you're sort of delegating to. So just keep those communication lines open. But yeah, start with what you know that you should be doing to be a senior product manager at your team, on your team specifically. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So we will now go on to our third and final speech of today. We have Tanya Sadolnik, who has been in software product management for over 15 years. She grew up in Montreal, but has been in Denver for half of her life. She's currently director of advertising platforms at Charter Communications. Tanya enjoys CrossFit, spending time with her family and 2 dogs, and exploring the beautiful state of Colorado. She is on the visionary communication pathway, and the title of her speech is Power Does Not Empower. With that, Tanya, please take the stage.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and hello to my fellow Toastmasters and guests today. General George S. Patton said, "Never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do, and they will surprise you with their ingenuity." With this, I'd like to start off by setting the stage. I'm going to give you 2 statements for the same ask, and I would like you to think about which one makes you feel more comfortable and empowered. "Hey, Sally, can I see you in my office in 15 minutes? Or, "Hey, Sally, I have something to discuss. Can you please put 15 minutes on my calendar when it works for you?" Let's see a show of hands, left for number 1 and right for number 2. Which one do you feel more comfortable with? All right, that's pretty clear that something so simple can make all the difference. What these 2 statements also highlight is a difference between what you might hear from someone in a position of perceived power, exerting their power with "I need to see you now," or someone, regardless of their position, empowering others on the day-to-day to make their own path. It's this theme that I would like to dive into a bit deeper using my own experiences. I have been in software development my entire career, first as an engineer, and the last 15 or so years have been in product management. I've definitely seen my fair share of product successes and failures, as well as career ups and downs. It's been so long, there's been many of those. One would naturally correlate the successes with the career ups and then the failures with the career downs, and you would be correct, at least in my experience. But what's been surprising to me is that the career downs and product failures occurred when I held the most senior positions of my career. As a VP, twice I have been a VP, and twice I have had the biggest disappointments. About 5 years ago, I took a package at a company I had worked out for over 13 years. I was very happy there. I had success with the products I was managing. as well as great support on a career path that I loved. I took some time off with the family and then began the job search. On paper, I was well qualified for a senior role, so my job search was focused on VP type jobs. I landed one fairly quickly based on recommendation from a friend. And because of that, I turned a blind eye to glaring red flags. There was no job description, and the company had been in business for several years and did not yet have a formal product organization. The head of engineering was also the product manager. Right? What was I thinking? Oh, I know. I was thinking, surely as a VP, I can make change. The all-male C-suite will trust me and empower me to build a product team that will drive innovation. But such was not the case. What could be the subject of subsequent speeches on its own, my experience there was the worst of my career. The culture was a toxic, top-down, power-driven, male ego-dominated circus. I lasted barely 2 years and then jumped at the chance to get out and help a startup build its product portfolio and a customer base. Again, as a VP with an all-male C-suite, but a significantly different culture, which made all the difference, thank goodness. I was in a position of perceived power, but I was also empowered to build a program management office, product marketing strategy, customer support system, the whole shebang. The problem with this, though, was a lack of resources. We just ran out of cash. We did win a trial contract with a really large customer, but the sales cycle in my industry is so slow that we just couldn't hang on, and thus led to failure number 2. So here I was in late 2019. I found myself again on the job hunt for the 3rd time in as many years. I took a step back and I had a really good hard look at what I could have done differently over the past 3 or 4 years. Why did it seem so difficult? Maybe the last 2 positions were telling me something, but what was it? For the first time in my career, I made a conscious effort to apply for consultant type positions. I had always gone for full-time. I needed some time to reassess what it was that I was good at and what made me happy. So I landed a director level contract gig with Charter Communications, and some of you may know them as Spectrum, the cable, internet, and TV service provider, as the sole product owner of an internal subscriber data targeting platform and digital advertising that was struggling. But management didn't provide a direction for the product, so I had to figure out a path forward on my own. There was a roadmap, so I had a place to start, and it would have been easy to just keep on that path. But there were teams working on this, a user experience team, a back-end team, but their morale was low. So I set out on a mission to turn this thing around. I learned the product. I sat with the engineers, the inputs, the processes, the outputs, the high-level technology. I interviewed the engineering teams for their thoughts and ideas on paths forward. My message was that we were all in this together. I was just there to help make it happen. Together, we created a product vision with short and long-term goals. Short term, analyze the process, set KPIs, and then long term, we wanted to add more internal customers. We did many demos for upper management, and I made it a point to let anyone on the team present if they wanted to, if they said, hey, I would like to do this. This was our product, and we were all empowered to make it a success. The results, in the first 12 months, processing time decreased 70%. We added 2 major customers. We saw 33% growth in the data we were managing and a 5 times increase in use cases that we supported. Today, I am now a full-time employee with a few more products to manage under my belt, and I still do not have direct reports. I'm just a matrixed organization. At this point, you're probably wondering what my point is. No, I'm not telling you to not try and advance your career because it will end in failure, not at all. I'm trying to illustrate that perceived power does not empower, and you can make a difference and advance your career with simple adjustments at any level in the organization. Take your time, enjoy what you do, learn as much as you can from the teams you work with, and success will follow. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I really appreciate you sharing all the stories. Wonderful. All right, can we put a minute on the clock, please, Erica? Does anyone have any questions for Tanya? All right, who do we have? Amelia, you want to go first? Oh, you got lots of questions. I'm seeing all the hands.
I can go first. Great speech, Tanya. I loved hearing about your career journey and the various ups and downs that you've experienced. And I especially related to your commentary on company culture. How have you been able to, or would you have any advice on folks for determining a company's culture or evaluating it during the job interview process? And how do you know what you're really walking into before it's maybe too late?
Oh gosh, I wish I had sat back and really done that with that first VP opportunity. It makes me not agitated, but just a little bit stressed thinking about the mistakes and what I should have been looking at, right? The all male dominated C-suites. I know that in technology, it's hard not to have the all male dominated, but then look at the next level down. Are there any women in there? Are the women there? What kind of positions are they in? I should have really looked at that. I also really relied on the input of friends, which it can be good and bad, right? But I just don't let that be your sole source, right? Of making that next career decision. Do a lot of research on LinkedIn, social media. I know, you can find out a lot just in general, like past positions, how long have these folks been at the company? Just a lot of research, but there's no recipe, right? To go in and say, what the company's going to be like, what their turnover's been. I like to ask that in interviews, like how long have you guys been part of this team, that kind of thing. Could go on, but yeah, sorry, I don't have a.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
It is so hard because every situation is different, right? And you learn so much along the way. And anyway, Erica is showing flaming red, so I'll stop talking.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was the exact question I had too. So appreciate that, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Excellent. All right. So now we are going to move on to the second portion of our meeting. We're going to move to table topics. Sonia, I'll bring you to spotlight. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the speakers and sharing your personal stories and talking about how we can empower our team. So thank you so much. Let's move on to table topics.
Hello, everyone, again. We will be commencing our table topics round. What a great set of speeches. I feel like I have just so many questions from the speeches themselves. I'm actually going to use some of the points you all made during your speeches and ask questions related to that to the group. One of the things that struck with me, even while I was researching this topic, is that it's not just a manager who can empower a team. Anybody at any level can empower their teams, just like Ritu mentioned in her speech as well. So the first question is, how do you empower the teams that you work with? The first question is, how do you empower the teams that you work with? And the question goes to Jennifer Ginsburg.
Hey there. Thanks for that question. When it comes to empowering your teams within the organization, so just a little bit of background about me. I do have a number of product owners within my company. One of the things that I think is particularly important is to drive home that importance of why are we doing things? What is the business problem that we are trying to solve? and empowering them to be able to A, understand that, articulate it to their development and engineering teams, and be able to craft that story holistically across the organization. And so one of the main things that I do is I try and A, set expectations as far as this is part of your job. And then similarly after that, it's, you know, letting them figure out for themselves, partnering with others to be able to make that happen across the IT organization, and then even within the sales and marketing spaces. There are times though that from a structural perspective, there needs to be some consistent processes in terms of department alignment. And so part of what I have found is that it's helpful is making sure the folks that report into my organization understand who do they need to go to and what part of the process they're in. And that helps them understand where do they fit in into the grand scheme of things. Back to you, Soumya.
Thank you for that answer, Jennifer. That's so true. People need all the support that they can get, even if they have a sense of autonomy that they can make decisions. They still need support and direction and feedback that they are going on the right path.
Yep.
One of the benefits of empowering a team and having them operate autonomously is that they can come up with innovative solutions that no one person could have thought of. Often we need a group of people from very different backgrounds to come together and share their own perspective and approach to solving a problem. So the next question is, what are some of your favorite ideation or brainstorming techniques in a group setting? The question is, what are some of your favorite ideation or brainstorming techniques in a group setting? And the question goes to Sirisha.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Soumya. That's a great question. So little bit of, again, background, the space I work in Teamable in a customer information domain. So day in and day out, we are trying to solve the problems, or not even solve the problems, but trying to make a better customer experience who's using our products, whether it's a K, retail, web. So the best way I go about it is like, I'm a Teamable customer too. So what am I expecting when I walk into a store? What are the problems that I am facing, right? And that is how I begin with. But again, thinking in a diversified cohorts, it's just not me. I know a little bit of technology, but maybe my mother or my daughter who's like, going to be a teenager and trying to get a new phone, she might not be as equipped as I am, right? So the ideas that come, and I try to think, keeping myself in the same shoes as a customer and thinking of what problem and why. I love that, that value-based approach and narrating the why, right? Now, why do I even need to solve this problem? Like, is it a big problem versus a medium problem versus a nice to have a problem, right? So the one thing that I do take a technique is like, create customer journeys. So I have a group of people who help create some customers journeys around like, what problem we are solving for and why we are solving, and that is how I go about it. I try to walk through this with my stakeholders, also engineers, because maybe it seems like a very easy problem to solve, but when it comes to implementing it, it might be not so simple, right? So yeah, that is how the ideas come from. And also I look at like little bit of history of like, what we have built and what we are going and what is our roadmap for the company as well. Like, you don't want to solve each and every problem that we have on hand, right? So yeah, that is the only few things that we use in a group as product managers. Thank you for the question. Over to you.
Thank you, Sirisha. Walking in a customer's shoes is definitely a great way to empathize with the customers that we are also seeking to empower. The next question is related to communication. Autonomy does not mean throwing something across a fence and letting some other team handle everything without any input. Communication is the key between teams and even between managers and their reportees to make sure that they can take decisions and they're not taking decisions in a vacuum. So the question is, how do you communicate with the teams that you work with to make sure everyone is aligned and unstuck? The question is, how do you communicate with the teams that you work with to make sure that everyone is aligned and unstuck? And the question goes to Olina.
Thank you for the question. Definitely, it's very important to communicate the why and the ideas, the strategy for the whole team across all the teams that you're managing or you're working with cross-functionally. I think it is very important to ask for the input, but what's even more important, to give people feedback about how their input actually made a change and helped the company succeed, helped the team succeed, and what's more importantly, helped the customer succeed as well. So definitely asking for input and ask for ideas and insights is the key. If you don't communicate that with your teams, they feel unvalued, disencouraged, and they will never make an effort in the future. Maybe at first, but this will not last for long. So definitely give them feedback, positive reinforcement, tell them how important their ideas are, how the company appreciates them, and how their maybe even small ideas and insights helped to move the needle and helped the whole organization succeed. I think that's the key to keep everyone aligned. Thank you for the question. Back to you.
Thank you, Olina. And that's the perfect lead-in to my next question, which is about appreciation. Alongside feedback, recognizing teams and individuals even for their hard work and the effort that they bring to the table makes them feel seen and also leads to higher engagement and motivation. So the question is, what are some of the ways you have shown appreciation to your teams? And what are some ways you have been shown appreciation by other people in your company? Again, repeating the question, what are some of the ways you have shown appreciation for your teams? And what are some ways you have been shown appreciation by other people? And I will be picking someone with a role because there's nobody else left. This question goes to Shruti.
Give me a second while I spotlight myself. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the question, Samya. If you don't mind repeating it just once more.
The question is, what are some ways you have shown appreciation to your teams? And what are some of the ways you have been shown appreciation?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. And luckily, the company that I work for right now, they strongly believe in appreciation and bringing forward the accomplishments that the team members have done. So recently, what we have done is that in Slack, we have set up a workflow which says, shout out your accomplishments for this week. So every week, the reminder comes up and everybody talks about their accomplishments. And there is a lot of appreciation that's sent out to the team when they talk about them, what they achieved. So that is one way of doing it. And what I've done also is that I've incorporated this in our one-on-one with my reportees, and so that they always bring this out and it's visible to me, even small things that they achieve, and I just make sure that it's highlighted to the other stakeholders and everywhere, to everybody else. And this is also sort of thankfully repeated by my coaches and everyone. And so there are many places in which this is brought up, like the retros, the company town halls, and all of these places. So the company is big on appreciation. So these are a couple of things that they do. Thank you.
That's a great answer, Shruti. I will definitely add weekly shout out reminders to my list. One of the things that Marguerite mentioned in her speech was information is a key contributor to how empowered you feel. Do you have the right source of information that you need to accomplish your task or make decisions? So the question is, what are some key things that you have done to onboard a new team member in their first couple of months to make them feel empowered. The question is, what are some key things that you have done to onboard a new team member in their first couple of months to make them feel empowered? And the question goes to Lori. Sorry, you're the vote counter. I hope that's okay.
I can answer and you guys don't have to vote for me. Or if a guest would want to answer, they can do that too instead.
There's one more question. There's more questions.
Oh, you got more. You got them all lined up. All right. So this is a timely question. So I just onboarded literally 5 new people to my team in the last 2 months, and I have one more starting not next week, after Thanksgiving. So as the product manager for them, what I've been doing is I'm actually using it as an advantage. So they have fresh eyes on everything that we're doing. They don't have like all this, I say like baggage, if you will, like all these preconceived notions and things they picked up along the way. So as they start folding in work, I usually like give them a task or something to just pick up whenever they feel ready. And as they start diving in and getting more familiar with what we're doing, I always take a chance to meet with them one-on-one and just get their initial feedback of like, hey, does this make sense? How are you guys, how do you feel about this? Have you have any experience with this? Because we all have very diverse backgrounds. And what I've found is that, the designer that just started on my team, like he's already built the thing I'm trying to build like 3 times. So I'm like, great, you're basically an expert. Why don't you tell me how we're doing it? So I've just been like giving them that trust up front. And, if they fail or they can't do it, that's okay, right? We can figure it out. But by giving them that, I think it makes them feel empowered like from day one, and they're not afraid to make mistakes and talk through it with the rest of the team. So I kind of like ask them how they feel like learning. If they say they want to jump in, I literally let them jump in and take on something. So that's kind of what I've been doing on my team. Great question.
Thank you for that answer, Lori. This also relates to what Ritu mentioned in her speech earlier, that empowerment is earned. So sometimes you can give a lot of autonomy to someone who's not ready, and they won't be able to use it effectively. But then if someone's ready, then great, they can jump in and start making changes. Which leads to my next question, that empowerment is a spectrum. New employees often need a lot of support, but people who have been there for a while, they can and often transition into taking more responsibilities within their company. So the question is, how have you convinced your manager or the person you report to that you can be entrusted with key decisions and can lead key initiatives? The question is, how have you convinced your manager that you can be entrusted with key decisions and can lead key initiatives? And the question goes to our guest, Gabby.
Hi, thank you. So recently I joined a company and they needed someone to revamp their landing page. So one of the things that I noticed is, my manager was very supportive from the start, but during, I guess, like other meetings with other teams, he would jump in, like throw ideas. So in essence, our approach looked very, I guess, kind of scattered. So I had to kind of reel him in a little bit and talk to him on the side and say, hey, so, I have all this experience. I have a pretty good structure, and I presented him the structure in terms of like what my plan was. And I essentially asked him, like, how do you feel about me taking lead? And, if we have, any ideas that we want to discuss prior to a meeting, I can set up a time for that so we can make sure we're on the same page during like meetings and such. So that's what I did to, in essence, like convince them to, give me that opportunity to lead the project.
What a great answer, Gabby, and thank you for participating.
Thank you.
And that concludes our table topics round. Thank you, all the participants. I will send a list in the chat, and you can send your reports to Lori.
Awesome. Thank you, Soumya. That was great. I really enjoyed all the table topics questions, and I know it's tough to think on your feet, but it's super helpful. As product managers know, we are constantly being thrown curveballs. So thank you for those questions. And as Soumya said, please send Lori a direct message of your favorite table topic speech. And now we are going to move on to our third and final portion of the day, our evaluation round. So Sarah, I will pass it to you and introduce your team.
Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster, excuse me. So yes, as Monique mentioned, we are at the evaluation part of our meeting, and I am so pleased to announce our first evaluator, Emilia, and she will be giving her review of Richu's speech. So I call Emilia up to the stage.
Thank you so much, Madam General Evaluator. Richu, I loved your speech today. It was so wonderful to hear about your thoughts and experiences on autonomy and alignment. And in general, just hearing you speak again is wonderful. I remember your icebreaker speech to be particularly very engaging. I was so excited to hear you speak again. You have such a great presence that you bring into the room as a speaker. You're so engaging with your gestures and stories that you're able to tell. I loved the quotes that you inserted from Brene Brown and Simon Sinek. I loved your metaphors like peeling the onion. Overall, I just really love hearing you speak, and I thought it was so enjoyable. One maybe piece of feedback that I have is that I would love to hear some more personal stories from you, because I loved hearing them in your icebreaker speech and was hoping I could get some more from you today. And I also think that adding some more personal stories and concrete examples could have helped structure and flow your speech as well. And so would love to just kind of hear some of your voice and uniqueness come in your next speech. But really loved hearing you speak today, loved learning more from you, and looking forward to your next speech.
Thank you, Emilia. Thank you.
Thank you, Emilia. For our next evaluator, I'll call up Ashley, and Ashley will give her review evaluation of Marguerite's speech.
Thank you, Marguerite. You did an amazing job on your speech, and I know you're feeling a little under the weather today, but I do have to say I heard you were clear as a bell, so please don't feel worried about that. But overall, I thought your speech was very well executed, and I did hear the story that you were giving throughout your speech in terms of having that problem, giving a solution, and then recapping at the end, just to have us all on board and understanding what problem you were solving for. And I think that was brilliant. There are two items that really stuck out to me throughout the duration of your speech. And one of those was your audience engagement. If you were reading from your notes, I couldn't tell. And honestly, that's difficult to do. So I felt like you really knew your speech very well forward and backward. One item that I do want to challenge you with is just your body language. I noticed that your camera angle is a little bit lower, so we only see so much of you, and I could tell that you were using hand gestures, but I couldn't see them. So next time, before you give your speech, if you have that extra time that you can spare and kind of readjust your camera, just so we have a little bit more so we can see your hands when you're speaking, that would be phenomenal. And I think that will just help your audience be a little bit more engaged and also interact with you a little bit more too. And I think one other tip that you may be able to include going forward in terms of audience engagement, just outright asking us questions, just so that we stay involved and we stay with you throughout the journey of your speech. But overall, it was a beautiful job. Despite being sick and didn't hear any wonkiness in your voice, it was crystal clear.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley, for that feedback. And next we move on to our third evaluation. Ansu George will be evaluating Tanya Sadolnik's speech. So Ansu, if you'd like to take the stage.
Thank you. So how many of you here prefer reading a textbook quote versus watching a nice movie which delivers the exact same message? Left side for the first scenario and right side, raise of hands for the second scenario.
I think that one, right?
That's awesome. And that's exactly what Tanya did today, because she really took us through a movie, I would say, of her life and portrayed different messages and gave us lessons about what she learned in each phase of those stories. And that's the best part about her speech today. And I've heard that, psychologists say that, telling stories is the best way to make your speeches memorable. And you were a wonderful storyteller. So congratulations on that, Tanya.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. The second part is I sort of stole that from Tanya in my evaluation speech right now, making and asking interactive questions. And Tanya started off her speech in the first 30 seconds with an interactive question, especially because we're having speeches on Zoom. People are going to be fatigued by just looking at their screen. In a live scenario, we will, at least after a speaker exits, we will rest our eyes, look at other things, etc. And then our attention is called back to the next speaker. But in this scenario, it's more difficult because, it's just speeches, content after content. So you were able to get people's attention by asking that question and getting them involved. And when I spoke to you like a couple minutes before your speech, you said one of your main goals was to make your speech interactive and make sure that you try to make a connection with everybody. So that is a very good move. The third thing that I liked in your speech was the structure of your speech. A goal for your speech is to engage audience with exemplary, well-constructed content. So in the beginning, you mentioned that you had 2 failures, and very organically, you explained through 2 stories what those failures were. And then you moved on to your success story. I mean, you didn't have to really say that I'm going to say 2 failures and then I'm going to say my success story. You didn't have to do that, but very organically, you brought us to the success story and then summarized your speech with those learnings and giving us a question saying that, take your time and enjoy what you do and discover what you want to do next. So that message was clear. So I really liked the structure of your speech and it really kept me engaged, and I'm sure the audience as well. So having said that, obviously Toastmasters is a place where you learn and you get a chance to grow. So a few probably improvement points to make your speech even better. I think it said that, the first 10 seconds of your speech is when you have to grab the audience attention. I guess instead of coming on stage and saying thank you and greeting, maybe you could have posed that question in the beginning itself so it grabs people's attention, or something similar. The last recommendation is just use a pause. See what I did there? I used a pause. So I think your stories were engaging, but if you could just add a little bit of pause between the stories, that would give people time to just understand, assimilate that information, and then move on to the next one. So in summary, beautiful storytelling, which really gripped our hearts, and excellent message. Just play around with your structure a bit more to make it more interactive and use pauses in your speech. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. That is really valuable feedback. I appreciate it.
Sure. Best of luck.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I am now going to call on Sam, a doctor, for the grammarian report. Sam?
Thanks, Sarah / Madam General Evaluator. So beginning of the meeting, we got some great headwind on using the word of the day. Richu, Marguerite, and Sumya, I caught using the word of the day. If other folks used it throughout the meeting and I missed it, I apologize. Entrust sounds like trust, and trust was used a lot for this meeting, which is understandably so. But nice job, everyone. So the second half of my report, all of the speeches this meeting were super strong. The topics were really relevant and interesting, really great uses of grammar, calling out with Richu. Her statement of top-down management is the opposite of agility. A lot of really good sentences in that speech. Same with table topics. Nothing major of note for improper use of grammar this meeting. Again, really awesome content and really enjoyed listening to all of you.
Thank you, Sam. Excellent, thorough report. Thank you. And Rosie Hernandez, I will call on you for the counter report.
Yeah, definitely. I will say we have been significantly improving since we started the club a year ago. So I'll go down the roll call. Sruti, you had one Erica, one repeat, Monique, one Sarah, two Sam, one table topic, Siri, three three repeats, Ritu, one repeat, Marguerite, one one two repeats, Tanya, one repeat, Jen, 0 of everything, so great. Sarisha, two and one repeat. Elena, great as well. Lori, one Gabby, one Amelia, one Ashley, one and I think that's it. Perfect. And I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Rosie. Appreciate that. And for our timers report, I would like to call Erica to the front. Erica?
Sure, thank you. We did great today. I'm gonna start adding to my ums. So the prepared speeches today were between 5 and 7 minutes. Richu, your time was 7 minutes and 27 seconds, so you went over. Marguerite, your time was 5 minutes and 33 seconds, so you were good to go. And Tanya, your time was 6 minutes and 56 seconds, so great job there. For table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. Jennifer, your answer was at 1 minute and 30 seconds, so you were within time. Sharisha, your answer was 2 minutes and 11 seconds, so you were a little bit over. Olena, your answer was 1 minute and 13 seconds. Great job. Shruti, your time was 1 minute and 22 seconds. Lori, your answer was 1 minute and 36 seconds. And Gabby, your answer was 1 minute and 5 seconds. Great job for your first table topics. And we have evaluations. So evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes. Amulia, your time was 1 minute and 23 seconds. So you're a little under time. Ashley, you are at 1:37, so also a little bit under. And Aunt Sue, you are at 3 minutes and 30 seconds today, so you are a little over time. Great job today, everybody. Thank you so much. Passing it back to Sarah.
Thank you so much, Erica. Appreciate that thorough timers report. And that brings us to my report as a general evaluator. I'm thoroughly impressed with the way this meeting has been not just planned, but just conducted in general. Monique, you did a fantastic job in shepherding all of us together, even during the week, trying to find fill-ins and along with Lori's help. So that's greatly appreciated. I know we did start about 1 minute over. However, we caught right up to the agenda. And I have to say, regarding the agenda, this is the first time that I've ever followed it so closely. Typically, I'll look at it before the meeting and not pay any attention to it after that. I noticed real-time changes going on on the agenda. So I appreciate whoever's on the back side making those changes. The theme, empowering your team. I mean, how that's something that we deal with on a day in and day out basis. I really appreciate that theme. Monique, you did a fantastic job describing the theme and then also giving that description of the meeting structure. I really appreciate that. Sam, fantastic job in trust. That aligned very well with the theme. One thing that I would like to see incorporated is the use of our club mission. We have one that's a little bit different than the typical Toastmasters club in the sense that we are really doing this for the embetterment of women in product. And I would just love to see that club mission maybe introduced at the beginning of the meeting. And there were a couple of changes as far as for me, for the general evaluator, that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I wasn't sure who I was going to be introducing, and I was trying to figure that out as I was going along. Also, the other thing that I had to say was it would make a better experience, and I think someone did bring this up earlier, if I could see all your lovely faces in the videos. And typically there's a person on YouTube that does a lot of on training, and she says that we should have like about a 2 fingers length between the top of our head and the video. That makes sure that you use the entire real estate of the camera. So that would really bring your faces up front and close. And let's see. Oh, the table topics. Excuse me. Sorry about that, Soima. I love how you did the table topics, where you also brought in some of the information. You did it like an intro before you brought in the questions, and then you repeated the question. I really appreciate that. And then you even did a spin on it by incorporating a bit of what the speakers were talking about and bringing that into the questions. So awesome job thinking on your feet and really making that different. As far as the evaluators, I was listening for structure that I've learned in the past, where it's like a sandwich technique, where you begin with praise, you give the improvements, and then you end with encouragement. All 3 of the evaluators did a phenomenal job. There's nothing I could say about improvement on that end. And I think that it's such a gift to the speakers. Even as a listener, I took away from the evaluators, that's some things that I can bring later on as a speaker. So really, really appreciate that very much. Having said all that, I think we are about 2 minutes ahead of time. I'd like to return the meeting over to our Toastmaster, Monique. And again, appreciate your hard work on this particular meeting. So congrats.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate the kind words and your very thorough evaluation. So before I pass it on to Erica, Lori, would you like to give our winner for table topics today?
Yes, I can do that. So drum roll. It was a close race again today, as it always is, but our winner is Elena. Elena, great job. And I'm happy that you're back joining us often now.
Awesome. Congratulations, Elena. Welcome back. And so just what an absolute fantastic set of speeches and evaluations today. I so much enjoyed this meeting. And I really loved how our theme of empowering your teams was really present across so many stories, personal, helpful tips today. So thank you, everybody. I know we have upcoming time off. I'm going to take some time over Thanksgiving to reflect on the ideas and ways I can really incorporate this into my everyday days at work. So thank you so much. And I would like to invite Erica, our club president, to take the stage.
Thank you so much, Monique. Thanks for a great meeting today, everybody. The speeches, everything was so fantastic. You all did a wonderful job. At this point, I would like to invite our guests to speak again one more time. If you'd like to tell us how you thought today went and how your experience was with us, we'd love to hear what you thought.
I guess I'll go first. So it's my first time. I actually wasn't prepared to speak today, but I'm actually very glad I did. I think everything went really well. I'm just like very impressed with like everyone's experience, and I found myself like I started to take notes because I was like, I'm an associate PM right now, and I'm trying to advance my career. So I think this is a great opportunity for me to be able to learn from a lot of senior folks here. And yeah, sorry, I'm just like rambling right now because yeah.
No, you're not. That was an excellent answer. Just as your table topics was an excellent answer. So I'm glad you did something that you didn't think you were necessarily prepared for. I think that's all of us when we take those risks is risky as they may or may not seem, it's always worth it. So if you'd like to stick around and hear more about the club and ask questions, we'd love to have you stick around. Thanks so much for coming, Gabby.
Thank you.
Sina, would you like
Yeah,
to share?
Sure. Gabby, good job. You did a great job today. I was like backing out of it. So today's session was really good, very well organized, structured. Everybody gave their roles. Everybody was on point on their responsibilities. The topic was great. I actually took notes too. I have like a page full of ideas now. Thank you so much. All the examples were very valid and very well expressed. I can see how much growth you guys have. Like there was so less R's and ums, and I'm like, I need to get there sometime. So looking forward for this. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sina. I have never had just like one or and I can't even believe, I think I started a year ago. I was like 25, 30, back when we counted all of them. I was happy when we stopped counting all of them, but you'll definitely see, I mean, all of us are experiencing improvement even after a couple of months. So thank you so much for joining us today and for participating and for being so open to sharing your time with us and your feedback. We really appreciate it. Next, I'm going to hand over the mic, the Zoom feed, to Lori, our VP of Education. She'll have some announcements and help us get ready for our future meetings.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thank
Lori.
you. Thank you, Erica. Yes, so our next meeting roles, I just put in the agenda. Our Toastmaster is going to be Erica, our president. This is actually going to be a special event for our club. So we will not have a normal table topics. We're going to do something fun that includes the whole entire club that shows up. It is also our 1-year anniversary officially for the next meeting. So it's going to be a fun meeting. We're going to do something a little bit different and, you know, just party until the holidays. So if you can, yeah, let us know if you can't be there. We'll help get a substitute, but hopefully everyone can join because it's going to be fun. And for meeting roles, as most of you know, I have a form. The best way to pick a meeting role is to tell me what meeting role you want. I try to accommodate what everyone requests. So feel free to fill that out. Or if you won't be at a meeting, let me know in that form, and then I just don't assign you one. So we don't have to even find a replacement. As a reminder for anybody that just like gave a speech or has recently given a speech, make sure you go back into the Toastmasters Basecamp and like check off that you completed it. That way I can make sure your awards get processed as you complete your levels. If you have questions or you have no idea how to do that, that is perfectly fine too. It is confusing, so feel free to let me know and I can help literally walk you through it or ask your fellow club members. We have many people that have already achieved it, but basically you click the button enough until it gives you a green check mark. And other than that, I think that is all the announcements that I have. And as Erica said, we'll do Q&A after this meeting. So if anyone has any questions, regardless of what they are, happy to answer them for you. And if you have more questions for our speakers today, reach out to them, ask them your questions. I learned a lot and I'm going to follow up with some of you myself. So that's all I got. I will turn it back over to our Sergeant of Arms to dismiss us.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, everyone. This was a great session and happy holidays. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and adjourn this meeting for today.